Hi, I'm Chris Grimm, founder, coach, principal consultant of RA Consulting. For 24 years, we've been serving leaders and their teams around the world. This podcast, which I wanted to call The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but is called And Then I, is nothing scripted, nothing fancy. I promise that we'll be talking about successes and failures. It's the gold, I call it, that you find only in real stories with real leaders in real time. With that, I invite you to sit back, soak up the wisdom here of these everyday superheroes. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Leadership Podcast, And Then I. My name is Karuna Merchandani. I am hosting today's Leadership Podcast. I am with RA Consulting and RACoach.com. And I have the pleasure of hosting Mark Rosenbaum today. And in this Leadership Podcast, I get to interview real leaders who hopefully will tell the truth about how they navigate their day-to-day and tell us real stories, get really down and dirty. So like I said, I want to welcome Mark Rosenbaum, who currently is the Chief Financial Officer of Triton Digital, an iHeartMedia company. And he has held a multiple of executive leadership roles and chief financial officer roles for entertainment and tech companies such as Myspace, Disney, Fox Interactive Media. The list is long. And I've known Mark for, a number of years. I won't say how many, Mark, because I don't want to date either one of us. But I've had the pleasure of working with him in a number of companies. And I first met him at Gemstar-TV Guide, where he was a senior leader there in the finance group. And I'm thrilled to have him agree to do this podcast with me because he's one of the, I've worked with a lot of CFOs in my career in-house, and I've always said to him, he's not like your usual CFO. And we'll dig a little deeper into what that actually means. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Karuna. Wonderful to be here.
I'm so thrilled you're here.
Thank you for all those wonderful things that you said.
Yeah, I said a lot there. I was going to add, but I decided not to, but I'm going to do it anyway. You are responsible for my addiction to coffee bean. I don't know if you remember.
I do now.
So for everybody,
that's cost you a lot of money, I see.
You did. For everybody who's listening, I was not a big coffee bean fan. I mean, I loved their coffee, but I never used to have their frozen drinks. And of course, within, I don't know, a month of meeting Mark, he says, "You've never had the ultimate mocha and coffee bean? Let me introduce you." And I got to tell you, I've hated him since then.
Oh, I'm very fond of you as well.
Trivia, Mark, they've discontinued that drink. Just FYI.
More trivia. I can't remember the last time I had it.
Oh, well, there you go. Anyway, it doesn't matter because it's gone. So there you go. Anyway, Mark, like I said, thank you for being here. And look, one of the reasons I wanted you on here is because you've been around a while and you've also worked in the entertainment industry and the technology industry. And of course, over the years, things have evolved, things have changed. The tech industry has changed. The entertainment industry has changed. So I'm kind of curious from your vantage point with this evolution of both those industries, what have you noticed or how have you had to lead differently over time? And if it's different for both industries, great, but I'm suspecting it's not. It's probably sort of the same.
It's actually, I'd say there's more in common because anytime in any organization, whatever your sector is, there's got to be sort of core technology and core data management at the heart of what anyone and everybody's doing. So now those technological tools obviously change over time, but some don't, because I'll tell you, yes, in fact, when I was in business school, we were using Lotus 1-2-3, and within a couple of years, so now I'll date myself, and you can look up when Excel came out. When Excel was, introduced, I've made a career off of Excel.
Mm.
So and it hasn't gone away.
Right.
So there are some sort of core technologies that apply themselves commonly,
Mhm.
and then later it was sort of the business intelligence software tools that came out that allowed you to crunch an enormous amount of data and just kind of put your Excel on steroids
Yeah.
and allow you to manipulate data a lot faster. So entertainment versus technology company, it could be automotive, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's really more an issue of making sure what technology helps the staff be able to communicate in the most efficient way. So whether it's some instant messaging tool, whether it's Slack like that, whether it's obviously email and whatever sort of chat form there is. Ultimately, people need to be able to refer to one source of truth.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a single data source of truth. And so, there's all these technologies around it, but at the core, to make good management decisions, you have to 100% trust in your data. So that, to me, is the sort of foundation for any business sector.
Yeah, it's great. And then, as a leader, how have you sort of evolved over time, over these changes that have occurred in this industry? You had to do things differently, to be a better.
Yeah, I'd say the sort of biggest leap just within my discipline within finance is, as I said, this business intelligence data mart, if you will. It's basically like a detailed data repository system, like a multi-dimensional database, but it gets organized into virtual cubes. And without getting too technical, because I can't, it basically provides very sophisticated analyses that you can build for finance, for sales, for operations, and it helps you improve reporting and operational deal financial analyses. It's a sort of multi-purpose, multifunctional technology. And so to me, that's like the end all be all for my world.
Mm-hmm.
And it extends beyond, as I said, out of finance. We have a sales cube specifically that allows us to take a massive amount of data, different dimensions of time, different products, different criteria, and have that make your data a lot more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, just on the pure technology side, currently within Triton, we're on our third iteration of our advertising platform. Triton is a digital audio advertising technology company. So we are measuring the amount of digital listeners. So if you're listening to, any sort of stream over digital, if you're listening to your favorite radio station on the internet, likely it's going through our technology, and we're inserting ads into the stream, and we're measuring the size of the audience, and we're actually delivering that to your computer. And then we also have podcast technology. But each of these have been a sort of an evolution, and I've been with the company for 10 years. We're on our third ad platform in 10 years. So, every 3-year kind of a refresh cycle.
Right.
And we didn't necessarily reinvent. We've obviously created new capabilities and new features, and and work with our customers on what their roadmap is and what their needs are to serve their listeners. And so, we bake that into our next iterations, but it's very iterative. We have about 150 employees, of which 100 are developers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So first, a very, very heavy tech mentality and tech focus.
Yeah. That's great. Let's talk about, I kind of want to talk about, since this is a leadership podcast, I want to talk about your style of leadership environment. What do you think are the sort of the attributes of a good leader during these times that we're in?
Well, I'd say I have a number of sort of key guiding principles that I've adopted, I've sort of discovered and then made it my own. Like, yes, that I believe in.
Right.
I'll talk about the ones that I feel are sort of the most impactful. But as an overriding principle for me, you are just in general who you are as a person. You're the sum total of all the decisions you make. Good and bad. Here we are right now. We're sitting here because we made a series of good and bad decisions, and hopefully more good than bad.
Yep.
We're all going to make bad decisions. It's what you do when you make the bad decisions.
Yeah.
So I think it helps just from a leadership standpoint. Like to me, a really effective leader is somebody who has a high EQ, sort of an emotional quotient.
Yeah.
Because you need to stay emotionally centered and stable.
Why is that important?
Because everyone else is going to do this, and you don't want to go on the roller coaster ride with everyone. You want to kind of keep your wits about yourself.
Right.
And show empathy, be a human being, don't be an asshole, just be a decent human being. So
is that the number one prerequisite? Don't be an asshole.
It's a really high on the list prerequisite for just generally anybody I interact with. Like, but why? Life's too short.
Exactly.
So I mean, I think you're always being judged.
Yeah.
Every interaction matters.
Yeah.
Every interaction matters. And, I think it helps to be able to properly tolerate frustration and stress and sort of digest it and be able to diffuse it and not react in an overreaction sort of way. So again, stay to the center if you can. You can't always.
Right.
But keep yourself in check.
Yeah.
It's just it's hard to do, and you can get very emotional, and rightfully so, and sometimes you feel that's the only way you can really communicate how serious you are about your
exactly. Yeah, and just for the record, you're not implying everybody needs to be dead man walking, right? It's like you have to have inflection, you have to change.
Yeah. You can do this while the rest of the world's doing this.
Yeah.
I'd say another.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because obviously a lot of us are still working remotely. People have not gone back into the office. Has that changed? I mean, has that gotten harder to do? Has it gotten harder to lead over Zoom or whatever platform the company has got, right? Whether it's Microsoft product or whatever, the whole bunch of them, but
Microsoft Teams. Yeah, it's it is a little harder because there is the intangible aspect of being in someone else's physical presence and a whole bunch of nonverbal cues and for sure there's a cost, but I think it's manageable. I'll tell you that, and I'm very unique in this, that my staff all live somewhere else. And so for 10 years, I have only ever mostly done my meetings originally on Skype video.
Oh, interesting.
And so we'd have our team meetings would be on Skype 10 years ago. And so we've developed a way to sort of have ourselves be distributed, but find ways to still form trusted relationships and respect for each other, which obviously is another important aspect of leadership. But we can get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say as far as our current situation, it's all still a function of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
You are who you are in person or on Zoom.
On video, right.
And so it's just how do you effectively manage all that.
Now, when you've been remote for so long with your teams, did you on a routine basis get together, like on an annual, quarterly? So there was a touch.
Yeah, a lot of my staff is in Montreal, so I would go to Montreal a couple times a year, but actually always have some sort of physical presence. And of course, I haven't been there for a couple of years now, but that at least enhances, obviously, the remote connection.
Yeah,
so
great.
Yeah, at least at a minimum, periodic in person in whatever safe form it can be. These days is helps to solidify and cement those kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
I would say beyond a high EQ or being empathetic and being emotionally centered and all that, to me, seriously important, hire the best staff. People say it. They say it because it's true. Hire the best staff, hire people smarter than you, and then empower them.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to have a team of people who are going to have each other's, hopefully they'll build the relationships to have each other's back.
Yeah.
You build trusted relationships through honesty and transparency. So hire these great people, be honest, be transparent, foster a team culture, involve others in decision making. I personally feel that it's important to make each individual feel important and support their ambitions.
Yeah,
you gotta care. If you don't care, then you're just you're a number. You're not even a name. So to me, it's all about hiring extremely capable people and just investing in their professional lives.
Yeah, and there's it's a great point because there's so many leaders who you and I both know some of them who want to be the smartest person in the room and are afraid of hiring people who are smarter than them, right? For a whole bunch of reasons. And that's a tough one. A lot of folks can't get over that.
No, and I feel like, look, no one has all the answers.
Right.
Accept that, know that. In that case, get all the best people who have all the great ideas, and we have all the best answers, even more than we ever could have had on our own. I mean, it seems logical, but
I know
it clearly is hard. And I feel like, when in building a team, that relationships are really forged by fighting in the trenches and winning together.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got a huge obstacle, you rally together as a team, you're victorious, you're a solid team.
Bonded for life in a lot of ways.
Leverage that forever. So, but again, these things take time and they take nurturing, and there's a lot of intangibles to it, but there's got to be a genuineness. It better be genuine. This isn't just like, well, I need to do this. No, you either believe it and you do it, or people aren't going to respond.
Yeah, that's so great. What else is in your list? I feel like it's the Letterman top 10 list, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're just sort of these guiding principles that I sort of spout out from time to time. So I tried to collect them in my head. Another one that my wife hears me say often is, competitive excellence, right? It's set a very high bar.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to winning. I see everything as a game.
You've always been that, right? You've always been that person,
always
competitive in everything. Yeah.
I need to try and master whatever it is that I'm doing. And the only way to do that is to have people who help me do that together. I can get far on my own. I get a lot further with other people's help. Always further with other people's help. So, but, it's within that competitive excellence, there are other sort of sub principles for me, which are like no self-inflicted wounds. Life's hard enough. Life's hard enough. Don't
make it worse. Right.
You know what? I need more obstacles. That's what I need. I need more of a challenge.
Hoops.
Yeah. Screw this up and I'll just have a much harder time. That'll be much more fun. Right? I know you don't know it's a self-inflicted wound until you've inflicted it.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Sometimes you don't know it's coming.
Well, so
sometimes
to the extent you can be a planner, minimize self-inflicted wounds. Right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Another is just a get shit done mentality. Just get shit done. Let's get it done.
At what expense, though? That's the thing. You got to be mindful of that, right?
Listen, there have been, unfortunately, and I'm not alone. Had I gone into investment banking, my life would have been, there have been no balance.
Yeah.
When we were at Gemstar-TV Guide, there was a 4-week period, I remember, where we worked literally 100 hours a week for 4 weeks in a row.
Just 4 weeks for you? We just did a lot more.
At that pace.
I know.
So, yes, at various times there will be a work-life balance. There just will be, because you're in the battle. Yeah. And you do what you have to do. But when you're not in the battle, you need to be as productive as you can be within, enough proper constraints so that you can be able to take care of the physical and emotional side of your being.
Yeah, that can be an everyday thing. I mean, I know as a coach now, as a consultant, and I'm sure you've worked in the past in some cultures where it is 24/7. Right? That sense of urgency is always.
So it's interesting. And that's something I think, it's worth exploring further.
Yeah.
Is, I'm always on. Yeah. And by always on, I mean, I only feel, and this is me and my personality. This is not for everybody. I only feel comfortable when I know everything in my world and universe is stable. Right. It starts to tilt, I gotta get it back to stable. Yeah. So I'm not obsessively, but I'm regularly from morning till night checking my email and sort of keeping, finger on the pulse of what's going on. Make sure that the patient is, at a calm, normal heart rate. Right. I know some people can feel like that's just constantly stressful. To me, that's calming. Yeah, for your purpose. Reassuring that everything is fine. Right. If not, I'm like immediately taking care of it. And so to me, that's another attribute, which is be responsive. Mm-hmm. People appreciate responsiveness. And now, yes, if you've got 100 different things and you can't do 100 things simultaneously, but managing that sort of priority list and being able to produce and do it at a pace that allows you to keep everybody at least within a a normal kind of pace. If people are accelerating in their, if something's getting out of control, then look, these are all strategies everybody has, I think, learned over time, which is if you have an email string where it's respond, pick up the phone, stop it, cut through it, short circuit, and take care of it. So I think learning what those triggers are and when it's effective for you to find the most efficient path to get that shit done and do it in a responsive way.
You talking about getting shit done and you being on all the time, when you hire people on your teams, how important is it to set expectations and to let them know, like, this is how I operate, this is what I expect?
Very important. And by the way, just because I do that doesn't mean I require everybody else to do that.
That's important, right?
And the way I manage that is I know for who I report to, I'm constantly making sure the world is okay.
Yeah.
And for my staff, I respect their non-work time unless there's something that truly is an emergency, and I'm very judicious in what I consider an emergency. So if I'm reaching out to somebody, okay, it's unusual and it requires some engagement and intervention. But otherwise, nothing is gonna be that important unless it is.
Right.
And by the way, and it doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen every week. So again,
fire drill, right? It's occasional, and but there are some people who kind of are addicted to the fire drill. So every day is a fire drill, right? And there are
that's it. I mean, I feel that another skill or attribute that people can hopefully learn over time is the need to constantly adapt in an environment of continuous change, right? And so that's it. That's us as human beings, is just the change is constant, of course, but how do you adapt? And
we hate change as human beings.
Yeah, it's interesting. We hate it, but we love it, because if we didn't have change, we'd be like, okay, what am I doing now?
Right.
Oh, right. Because you're bored with your current whatever, you need a change. So, yes, it's back to the competitive excellence. I'd say sort of the last 10 minutes kind of captures all those mentalities in my mind, and everybody has their own bar,
right?
And that's something really interesting when you're interviewing somebody. Hey, Karuna, can you wait? Here's my bar. Where's your bar?
Right.
Oh, your bar's here. Oh, okay. Oh, your bar's here. Wow. You can't know that until we start working together.
No, that's so true. You don't find out. I mean, people aren't necessarily they're going to tell you a good story, right? They're going to, during the interview, show themselves in the best way possible, the best light.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, day one.
Over time, you figure out, right? If you're hiring a lot of people, you kind of, you get to know pretty quickly if they're a keeper or not.
But that's really hard to assess during an interview. It's so hard. It's all of those intangible things about who you are as a person and how you go about kicking ass doing your job.
Yeah, it's so true. Look, it's a great segue. You brought up change. A change is constant, and let's talk a little bit about the role of a leader, of you, in driving change in an organization. Like, how do you do that? How do you bring people along?
Well, I guess, it depends on what flavor of change are we talking about? Mm-hmm. So are we talking, culturally trying to turn who we are as a group and how we behave and act towards each other? Are we talking technological change? Are we talking, so change is broad.
Fair enough.
But I think today, probably the most relevant thing that everyone is facing is remote workforce.
Yeah.
And effective leaders today need to understand how to work with a remote workforce and how to use communication tools to manage projects and manage people.
Flexible, yeah.
And so I believe we'll see how it works out over time. And just because we're certainly heading in this direction in my company, we are going to have a very flexible workforce. And so I'm going to predict that we'll have more people than not still working remotely, with a increasing but still generally limited people getting together in a much smaller environment. We're having discussions like everybody around the world on our existing space.
Yeah.
How it's currently too much, and so what do we need? What does our staff want?
Right.
So we need to have discussions with our staff and get their input. And so certainly being able to survey your team and understand what's critical, and then we can create some policies that are effective. I feel like we have not missed a beat remotely, and I know a lot of other companies have not missed a beat. Now, again, it's business specific, but as I said at the beginning, we are mostly majority developers. So yes, there is a lot of independent activity, except that they're in sprint teams and all this. So you do need to collaborate. But what we're on right now is very effective. It just is. But as I said also at the beginning, 2D is only so much. So that's why I think if we've got some kind of a collaborative workspace, and there'll be a hybrid model for sure.
So leading change in an organization requires sort of not consensus, but maybe input from the population, right? And I think
yes,
as important, it can't
just be top down. It's a top down and bottom up.
Yeah, and I think top down. Look, the alignment with the board, your lead, the CEO, all of that needs to fall into place, right? You kind of all have to be and there needs to be aligned thinking around these kinds of things.
Well, and yes, and another kind of critical piece is effective communication. Yeah. So again, these is like motherhood and apple pie. It can't be overstated. It just can't.
It really can't.
Transparency as much as you can, and certainly there are areas that you can't be transparent for obvious reasons. But another guiding principle of mine is no surprises. No surprises. And how do you have no surprises? You're planning, you're trying to anticipate, you are having contingencies in case of, and I say no surprises, I mean no good surprises, no bad surprises. It means you're not in control, or something's getting away from you somehow. So you can't be perfect in all instances, but the extent you can anticipate and then be transparent, communicate.
Right.
That communication helps to reveal things that will help change your course to then keep you from having surprises.
Right.
It's important to know when to talk, when to listen, back to that top down versus bottom up.
It's so ironic, Mark, right? We've got so many tools today that can help and assist with communication. There are a million ways to do this, and yet, even in my consulting, that is the one area where if I were to like survey employees, they'd say, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the middle management, I don't, maybe the executives are doing really well. They communicate to each other, they talk, but then there's always this gap,
Well,
right?
I'll tell you what we do.
Yeah.
In fact, this Thursday, we have a monthly all hands meeting.
Yeah.
Every single person in the company, now granted, we're 150 people, so it's not like I've got 50,000 people all in the tiniest of Zoom boxes. But at least at our size, and obviously other larger companies have their town halls and whatnot.
Sure.
It's important. It's important because it's the only real direct connection to
The top leaders.
To top leaders and all levels of staff. So, and it helps to, either not just for the sake of rallying the troops, but at least communicating a vision.
Yeah.
Communicating concrete goals for the future and do it in a very enthusiastic and positive way to get everybody, on board and moving in the same direction. It's important. I didn't appreciate how important that was until much later in my career. I'm like, I do my job. I'm going to get my stuff done. I'm going to accomplish. I'm like, well, okay, you know what? Got to step back.
Yeah.
See what the bigger organization's purpose and existence is, and how am I part of that? So yeah, hard to do. Hard to get that perspective unless you live. Some things you have to live them.
Yeah.
Obviously, but
yeah. You have for up and coming leaders, who need to sort of build strong teams, cohesive teams, high performing teams.
Mm-hmm.
What you got for them?
Well, first of all, I believe in a democratic leadership style. I'm open to opinions. I will make a final call where I need to make a final call.
Yeah.
But I need everyone to have their voice. Again, depends on the subject matter, but generally speaking, I want to hear what you think.
Yeah.
It's all part of that smarter than me mentality, and I need to know so I can assimilate and put it together, and then either hopefully it's a consensus, but if there's a split decision, I'll definitely make the final call. So obviously you need to make confident, tough decisions and lead with authority, and that is inspiring. If hopefully you're not making constantly wrong decisions, that would be hard.
Suck.
But then once you've committed yourself, then rally the team and support the direction.
Yeah.
And again, back to what I said earlier about fighting in the trenches. There's no task too small for me to do. As like my CEO says, he's like, I'm everything from CEO to janitor, and apologize to janitors putting them on the lowest rung, but it's just you do what you need to do, and you do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I alluded in my introduction that you were not the usual sort of that is one of the qualities, right? You were always willing to roll up your sleeves and do the hard work. It was right. It was not the, oh yeah, I got people, because you always had people, right? You were always I always saw you managing. You had teams, you had people that you could delegate to, and you did very well. But you were never one to say, oh yeah, they can do that. I'm not getting involved.
Listen, I've been very fortunate to have worked with exceptional people,
You had good peeps.
exceptional humans. They're
Sure.
just good people. And you know, one of them who was my head of finance at Gemstar-TV Guide,
Yep.
you know, I hired him there, and now a lifelong friend.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing. So it's obviously doesn't happen for everyone everywhere, but to the extent you can be like-minded and
Yeah.
have the same kind of purpose, that you'll get there together.
It helps.
And by the way, have fun. We better be having fun.
Right.
And I have to find humor in everything.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. I'm finding the humor. Damn it.
Yeah.
So,
It kills me.
so I feel like, you know, that also helps diffuse. I'm not saying to minimize or belittle or not take seriously, but I'm taking, you know, things seriously, but with perspective.
Yeah. So don't be an asshole. Hire good people.
Have fun.
Have fun.
Be good playing in the sandbox.
There you go.
That's it. All back to kindergarten. Just like, are you good in the sandbox or not?
No, but what do you do when other people are assholes?
So that's an excellent question. How much time do you want to spend on that?
Yeah, right. There's no easy answer to that one, I don't think, unless you have one.
No, and of course it's going to be individual specific, and you know, is it a one-off? Is it, you know, course correction? Is it their DNA?
Yeah.
And so, yes, I unfortunately have had to let people go in my career. And I always, you know, when I was much younger, I was a people pleasing person. I wanted to just make everybody happy. Well, I learned somewhere along the way.
You were that guy?
Yeah. I changed.
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's, you know, because I came from a biology background undergrad and went to business school with zero work experience or business courses. And so I always felt like I was just completely behind the eight ball on everything, because, you know, everybody had their business degrees and whatnot. And so I just always felt like I just needed to please. Until I started, which is kind of an interesting concept. I started to think about early in my career that, let's see how I can phrase this. Since I didn't have all of the tools in the toolkit when I started working, anytime I encountered something new, a new challenge, something I had never seen or thought of, or, you know, I was eager to learn new concepts. So when I encountered something, you know, I'd never heard of or understood the concept before, and then solved whatever the complicated problem was. Let's say it was, you know, creating a spreadsheet that solved whatever. I always felt happy knowing I would always own it from that point forward. Like, oh, and now I got that.
Oh, I see.
Now I got that. Now I got that. And eventually, over enough years, you've seen kind of most of the challenges, and so you've dealt with them, and you can kind of pull that out of your toolkit. I didn't have a toolkit when I started, so that's when I started to form more of my opinion about, well, wait a minute, this is a better way to do it, and then I would, you know, cater more towards getting a better solution than I was trying to please everybody.
Yeah, well, look, and having, you talked about EQ earlier on, and having the emotional intelligence and the self-awareness, right, to learn those lessons or understand that building your toolkit is important. I think that gets missed along the way.
It's hard because and I don't know how it works with the millennial generation, because the amount of time bouncing around, I don't know how that may or may not disrupt the development of that sort of toolkit, and what other intangible relationship skills that you develop. I was fortunate enough to work in, Disney was, I was there 7 years, and 9 years. And each of these places were really long periods of time where you can really develop a very rich set of relationships. Hard to do if you're, switching every 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, for me, it's sort of an interesting question. I sort of, and I don't know that we have time to kind of talk about that. It may be part 2, but it's interesting to me because, of course, this is the talk. Everybody wants to have this conversation about the millennial generation, and what do we have to do to kind of make sure they're supported and they're successful, right? In like, what is different? And to me, it's analogous to, I went to the same school, middle school and high school, I didn't switch, right? But I have friends who switched every 2 years. Literally, their parents moved, army brats or what, right? And I think both, I clearly had the advantage of building long-term relationships all the way to high school. But I also had friends who were so used to change and so adaptable and flexible. It didn't matter that they went to a new school and had to start over.
Oh, interesting.
And made them more outgoing and more extroverted. It forced them because they had no choice, right? So to me, when people talk about, well, millennials change job, they won't stay anywhere for more than 18. To me, it's the same. It's like, well, they're open to doing new things. They're open to challenging themselves more, because it's more of a challenge when you switch jobs. So to me, that's how I kind of think about it. And I don't mean to say you said it as a negative, but I think some people talk about it pejoratively, right? Saying, oh my God, they don't stay in any one place.
No, that's a really interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about that. That is analogous to switching schools, and you're the new kid, and you need to form relationships, and how do you survive? And so for sure, but maybe I'll suggest, how many times do you need to keep doing that?
Yeah, fair point. I think, it goes back to change is constant, being okay with change and challenging yourself, right? So if you're in a job that you're not happy and you don't feel like you're being challenged, well, then,
Well, and that's back to the tools in the toolkit. Are you growing personally?
Right.
And I always encourage, personal growth. Take, courses. I'll, support, external courses, and professional development is really, really critical, and learning managerial skills. And, so if you've got the initiative, the desire, hopefully you have an organization that will support, and invest in you. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I think that's a really good point to end that on. What do you think?
I think I can go for so much longer. It's entirely, that's fine. We covered a lot, for sure.
Covered a lot. Yeah, it's really good. Look, thank you again for your pearls of wisdom. Much appreciated. I appreciate you spending the time. And for those of you listening, this one's a good egg, and I hope you learned something new. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the next And Then I.
Thank you, Karuna. This was a really, really fun conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.